So you want to be a writer, do you? Well, if you do, you've come to the right place to learn a few things about the realities of writing and publishing, but only if you're really serious about writing, because I'm going to tell you the truth. Welcome back. I'm Professor Parsons. I'm a writing teacher, and this is episode 5 in my series to accompany my book, Permission to Write. There are so many myths about writing and publishing that I hardly know where to begin. Now, my role after 30 years of writing and publishing is going to be to play devil's advocate for you, to tell you some of the realities. This episode is about writers groups, and you're going to go online and you're going to find lots of reasons why you should join a writers group. I'm going to tell you all the reasons why you shouldn't. So come along with me, come inside my computer, and let's get started. Before we begin, you need to know this. I care about books, I care about writing, and I actually care about writers. But because I care more about the quality of writing than I do about writers' egos, I often find myself in complete disagreement with what many newbie writers think they ought to hear from writing mentors, what they want to hear from writing mentors. Which is why we need to talk about writers' groups. I suppose you think it would be a good idea to join as many writers' groups as you can? And I suppose you think that you can get great feedback on your work from all those other wannabe and self-proclaimed successful writers. Well, I'm here to tell you that you would be wrong in almost all cases. But before I get to the reasons why this is such a bad idea, let's look at the reasons why writers do join these groups. So let's face it, writing is really a solitary experience. And except for the odd times when you work on a collaborative project, writing is largely something you do completely by yourself. Franz Kafka even once wrote, "Writing is utter solitude, the descent into the cold abyss of oneself." Bit alarming, isn't it? Some new writers seem to think of writing as a lonely activity, but solitary and lonely aren't the same thing, and they aren't the same thing at all. A solitary experience is one in which you can enjoy your own company and become so engrossed in your own inner world that the rest of the world seems superfluous, at least when you're writing. Thinking of this time as being lonely actually means feeling isolated and feeling like you're missing something. Frankly, if writing makes you feel lonely, then you probably ought to find another line of work. You'll work alone most of the time if you're a writer. On the other hand, if you relish the idea of time alone, time to focus on the act of writing, which includes the research, the pre-writing, the editing, and the rewriting, you're probably well suited to a career as a writer. So, what's the problem then with a solitary writer seeking out other writers either in person or online? Writers have been coming together in groups for probably centuries. And frankly, there are thousands of writing bloggers who are going to tell you to join a group. But the benefits to your writing career are largely myths for many writers. Writing teacher and blogger Jane Friedman, whose work I highly recommend, suggests that there are several dangers with writers' groups. First, she suggests that within writing groups, failure is not an option. Now, the problem with this is that in writing, failure is probably the only thing you can count on. You'll fail more times than you'll succeed. She also suggests that new and struggling writers might not be the best ones to judge others' writing. You think so? Duh, you're going to get newbie writers, people who have no experience or have almost less experience than you do, judge your writing? You aren't going to want to hear this, but she also says that no one tells the truth and no one wants to hear it. As far as I'm concerned, this is the most problematic aspect of writers' groups, dishonesty, and it's one I've observed personally. I would add another more practical reason why writers' groups, especially online ones, are so problematic for you. They are royal time sucks. Many newbie writers spend more time interacting with other writers than they do writing. Goethe once said, "A creation of importance can only be produced when its author isolates himself. It is a child of solitude." So perhaps if you'd like to create something important, even if it's important only to you, you need to figure out a way to thrive in solitude. I've joined online writers groups to see what they're all about. And what I've observed is that writers want two things from their online experience. First, in some but not all cases, they want to ask others for help. You would think that this is what a writers group would be all about. But when they really want to be told that what they've written is great. Second, they want to sell books. And selling books, in my observation, is probably the most important reason why many writers seek out online groups. And this leads me to my main observation about writers' online presence in general. Writers are by and large most connected to other writers than they are to readers. And let's face it, readers are the ones who are going to buy your books. So if you want to connect to readers and sell books this way, it's not going to happen. And I don't care that you have thousands of Twitter followers, unless you're Stephen King or Margaret Atwood. Those followers aren't going to help your writing in the slightest. They will not improve your writing, and they will very much likely not even improve sales very much. Albert Einstein once said, "I live in that solitude which is painful in youth, but delicious in the years of maturity." For me, and many other writers whose writing lives have matured, this solitude is delicious. I know it is for me, and you'll get there if you're a serious writer. So really, stop talking about writing and just write. And if, like me, you truly enjoy that solitary experience, the whole discussion of writing groups and writing communities is really rather moot. Okay, by now it should be pretty clear to you how I feel about writers groups. Now obviously, if you want to join a writers group, go right ahead and do it, but buyer beware. Now if you're going to come along with me on the rest of this journey, subscribe to Moonlight Press channel, and we've got a lot more things to talk about, so I'll see you the next time.